You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
We're back on the second half of our 1 hour Byline. We're covering the Leutze-Goolsby State Senate race for the New Hanover County District 9 seat. That's a seat that's formerly held by Julia Bozeman. First up is Democrat Jim Leutze. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Delighted to be with you.
So where do you think your campaign is now in terms of the election?
We're working hard. I think I can win. I'm going to have to win without the same kind of money that my opponent has. But I think we can win because we're going to mount a vigorous get out the vote effort, and that's where it really comes down to.
Both the State House and the Senate are controlled by Democrats. There's a Democratic governor. How do you think the state's being run?
Well, it depends on, people have been pretty happy with the way the state has been run up until the last 3 years. And when the economic downturn, which I certainly don't think the Democrats in Raleigh were responsible, things have gotten tough. And so some tough decisions have had to be made. Cuts have had to be made. Money's had to be taken from trust funds. That makes people unhappy.
Money was always taken from trust funds. Money is always.
Well, I know that, but the public seems to be reacting very negatively to the fact, particularly that the lottery funds have been taken for education.
Don't you think they should? They were sold a bill of goods on the lottery?
I understand the irritation, but unless there's a constitutional amendment, the General Assembly is going to follow its first precept, which is to balance the budget. And any money that isn't tied down, they're going to go after. I'd favor a constitutional amendment to protect the lottery money.
Amendment to the state constitution. All right. So, what needs fixing? Anything in state government?
Again, everything is made more difficult by the fact that we have this terrible. I'm concerned about the corruption in government, just like everyone else is. But
in state government.
In state government, right.
You think there's a significant...
I think certainly we have had a number of people indicted. We've had a number of people charged with various crimes, and I'm very concerned about that. Now, the basic...
Including the sitting governor.
The sitting governor and the former governor.
And the former governor.
Now, of course, the good part of that is they are being investigated. It wasn't swept under the rug. They're being followed, and that's important. I have not seen one suggestion for ethics reform that I'm not for. In other words, I think we really need strict penalties for unethical behavior. We need transparency, and I think, but the basic problem, Don, is money. How can we take the money out of the political game? Because as long as there's money there is going to be the potential
for corruption. When you say take money out of it, you're talking about campaign finance reform? What are you talking about?
Some form of campaign finance or some kind of limit. I think the Supreme Court judgments that money is speech and that corporations are money and that out-of-state corporations, without identifying who they are, can send money into North Carolina or any other state is a tragic mistake for our democracy.
So you think campaigns should be financed how?
Somehow or other, not the way they are now. In other words, I do favor, certainly for some state officials, campaign finance reform in which they can only raise a certain amount of money.
So that's one of your priorities?
It's a level flying field. I'm for that, yes.
But I mean,
that's one of my priorities.
If you go to Raleigh,
yes.
I'm surprised you hadn't said, everybody's, when you ask them, what do you think, well, jobs, you hear buzzwords, jobs, you hear jumpstart the economy.
Yeah. The thing is,
do you think that, are those buzzwords of yours?
Sure. The only difference is I know something about that. That is, I've run a large enterprise. I have created jobs. And somebody says, oh, those are government jobs. For every one of the 350 jobs I helped create at UNCW, 700 people in New Hanover County got jobs and benefited from that.
So you got 50 state senators, you got 120 in the state house, and you have a governor. What aren't these people doing that needs to be done?
Well, as I said, I think people were pretty happy with the way the state was being run until we ran into the economic difficulty that we have currently. This is going to be the rubber's going to meet the road in the next couple of years, in which the budget is going to have to be cut further. And if you look at the budget, and I actually have studied the budget, I was on the Government Performance Audit Committee, studied the budget, made 800...
That's quite an effort, by the way. I went to the budget online.
Right.
That's quite a document to try to digest.
We went through it line by line. We made $800 million in suggestions for cuts in the budget. At that time, the legislature didn't do them all, and I presume that some of those have been done. But the budget is going to have to be cut. And I don't want to do the math for you, or I will do the math for you. The money is in, 60% is in education, higher education, public schools, community college.
60% of the state budget is,
that's right.
Is that?
25% is health and human services. 11% is crime and safety, public safety. And the other 7%, I think is what it comes down to, is everything else. And that only adds up to about 1.4 if you cut out everything.
So how much are you saying that you have an idea of what you want to cut when you go?
Yeah,
what?
Things are going to have to be cut, and things are going to have to be consolidated. We recommended, for instance, that 4 large prisons be built in North Carolina, rather than the 40 prisons that we had at that time. But of course, the counties don't like that because each one of those prisons is an employment center. So that kind of thing, you're going to have to fight that out. People are going to not be happy with the cuts that have to be made. Boards are going to have to be consolidated. People are going to have to be fired. There are going to have to be changes in the way in which we do business. And all of those things are complex and difficult.
Can you sell that to the rest of the legislature?
They're going to have to be sold on it because they've got to come up with $3 billion. And as I told you, if you cut out everything, the governor's office, the Commerce Department, the Division of Coastal and Natural Resources, if you cut all of those out, you'd only cut out $1.4 billion. We've got to cut out $3 to $3.5 billion.
Depending on party affiliation, North Carolina is either one of the best places for business or one of the worst places for a business. What do you think?
I consider it one of the best places, and most national magazines consider it to be one of the best places for business.
One of the big issues in this election cycle, particularly by your opponent and most Republicans, is taxes. On your blog, you say that North Carolina's taxes have not grown much and compare favorably with other states. So you think the current level of state income tax is fair and reasonable?
I think there have been at least 3 proposals made, and I was on one group that made some of those proposals as far as tax reform is concerned. North Carolina's tax system is similar to what it was in the 1930s when we were a rural state.
The levels aren't the same. You're talking about, I mean, it's certainly not the same.
The manner in which we are taxed, the way in which the tax is focused. And so there have been 3 major proposals made about reforming the state tax system to bring it more into the 21st century. So, and lower the corporate income tax is one aspect.
Do you support that?
Yes, I do. Tax some services, and I favor that.
If North Carolina is such a good place for business, why would you lower the corporate tax?
Because it could be an even better place for business. When I say we're a good place for business, I don't mean that we've done everything we can do, and I'm not talking about dramatically reducing it, but I think it's one of those areas in which we have to encourage more business, particularly small business.
Okay, so you would cut the corporate tax. What else?
What else out of the tax system?
You said it needs reform.
It needs reform. And the whole concept of taxing services is one of the basic ideas. It's called a value-added tax. And this is what many countries depend upon, is a value-added tax in which you are reducing. Now, my opponent talks about zero-based budgeting. No state in the Union, other than Jimmy Carter's Georgia, tried zero-based budgeting. There really is no practical thing called zero-based budgeting.
Did you support the quarter-cent sales tax increase?
Yes, I did.
And it did pass a referendum.
It did.
I wondered if everyone is so anti-tax increase, why that passed. Do you have an answer to that?
I think a very strong effort was put forward, and I think, I mean, I have some questions about the way in which the tax was promoted, and that the idea was that if they did that, then other taxes would not go up. And I'm not sure that that pledge has been honored.
Do you think the public today thinks that we should never again raise taxes?
I think that's what the public believes.
You do? And of course, is that a real expectation?
I can tell you this, a recession is a bad time to raise taxes. And I will not favor raising taxes at this time.
But if you get tax reform, as you just laid it out, you would raise or institute some new taxes, service taxes.
It would be, but the burden in some ways would be less in some areas and more in others. So it's not a total reduction in taxes. It's just a question about where the tax revenue comes from. North Carolina ranks 35th in the country as far as tax burden is concerned, and you can go to virtually any reputable source and find that to be the case. Nobody likes taxes. I don't like taxes either. So, but I'm just saying that we do not rank high as far as our total tax burden.
I've been asking candidates about some recent headlines that suggested that HOAs may be stepping over the line of personal property rights and may need more oversight and regulation. That would be a state legislative thing. Any comments on that? I
think they do, and I think they should be better regulated.
You do?
I'm unhappy with my particular homeowners association, I can tell you that.
I'm president of mine, but...
Oh, I understand. It's a difficult...
And I don't...
It's a difficult job, but some of these, you know, are sort of outsourced. They're not run by the local citizens. They're run by a group in somewhere else, and they send you your bill.
Let's get some quick takes on some issues. Do you support or oppose involuntary annexation?
I oppose involuntary annexation. I think people need to play some role in and they need to know, and they need to get the services that they're supposed to get when annexed.
You would be representing New Hanover County. The city of Wilmington is very pro-annexation. You would sit at a table with the Wilmington City Council and say, I'm not going to support that in the legislature.
Don, I'm a consensus builder. I work across party lines. I work with various groups. I've done that all my life in the groups that I've worked with. So I would work to try to see if we can find some consensus about this very contentious issue.
We're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you so much
for
joining us. That's Democrat Jim Leutze. Next up, stay with us. Mr. Leutze's opponent, Republican Tom Goolsbee, will be joining us. Stay with us.